Good morning, friends. I'm here again, talking to my phone, playing around with it. It's not really good. I have to find a better solution than this, but it's early Monday morning, probably the worst time to get up to fly to Frankfurt. I'll meet clients there today, but before that I thought I had time with coffee to talk to you about what will go on in the markets today, or rather what happened yesterday when the Chinese central bank cut its key policy rate by 25 basis points to 5.1. Interesting news. The Chinese central bank is clearly moving towards more monetary accommodation, and I would say rightly so. The macro numbers has not been fantastically strong, and as I showed in a blog post yesterday, the so-called money gap, the difference between what money supply growth ought to be to ensure some kind of nominal stability, stable inflation, stable demand growth. That money gap has turned negative over the past 1.5 years, and it's still negative. And as a result, we are seeing deflationary or disinflationary, at least, pressures in the Chinese economy. We're actually seeing producer prices down quite a bit. And that's an indication that the Chinese central bank ought to ease monetary policy further. The Chinese central bank has now done that, and judging from the markets this morning, it was not totally priced. Stock markets in Asia are up nicely this morning, not dramatically, but nicely. And I think the Chinese central bank is moving in the right direction. That being said, the Chinese central bank faces a major challenge, a challenge that is bigger than most other central banks in the world. The Chinese growth underlyingly is slowing. The structural growth in China is probably going from, let's say, 10% a couple of years ago to now towards 6-7% right now, and I think most forecasts for the medium term, 2020, 2025, points to growth slowing below 6%, and then down to 3%, and then negative in a couple of decades. Why? Because of negative demographics. The one-child policy implemented by the Chinese Communist Party is a real burden for Chinese growth in the longer run. That means that Chinese monetary policy has to be adjusted to that. Money supply growth can no longer be 15% if structural growth changed to, let's say, 3%. Then you will see a situation where inflation will have to pick up. And at the same time, growth slowing will be moving towards a Chinese stagflationary scenario. The Chinese central bank well knows this. So it'll have to slow down money supply growth in the medium term, but in the short term, it has undershot on money supply growth. So that's really the challenge. How do you get money supply growth up a little bit now, but make sure it don't turn inflationary down the road? Obviously, the Chinese central bank will have to look at what kind of instruments it uses. For example, we have very little guidance on what will happen tomorrow and 12 months from the markets, because the markets are underdeveloped. I do not exactly have an inflation future, a nominal GDP future for China. That would be nice. We don't have that. So we tend to look at money supply numbers, for example, and there the verdict: we need to ease monetary policy now, but not a lot. And I think that's where the Chinese central bank is headed. I'm not one of these China pessimists around. I think China will slow structurally, but I'm not sure that China will blow up. This is not a boom bust. There is not a major China bubble that is about to burst. But China is facing structural headwinds, and those are fairly large. I've written about that earlier in a post where I argue that China will never be the largest economy in the world, exactly because of negative demographics. And this is the environment in which the People's Bank of China now is navigating. It'll be rather easy or rather interesting to follow going forward. I think it's quite challenging times, and if you want to look at something in the global economy where something might go wrong, I think it is China. I think I will be talking to clients about that today. Until then, look at my old posts on this. I wrote that one yesterday, and then my even older post on the structural slowdown in China. See you soon.